4th and goal to go to 2. 34 seconds left to go in the ball game. This is the play right now. Takes the snap. Targeted goes in. Targeted all alone. And the quarterback keeps. Wow, what a call. Nobody touched him.
Here is Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
Now I was going to go over the Giant. How bad is the Giants' run defense? Well, yesterday was not very good at all. It was not very good. I said some of it also has to do, obviously, with obviously this guy right here, Mr. Daniels. You have to be very careful on any handoff, because if you go after the ball carrier and he just tucks the ball in and runs around the edge or whatever, he'll pick up some yardage. Now, I think it was his first run of the game, if I'm not mistaken. Burnsy didn't crash down or nothing. Daniels, faked the handoff, turned around, and was starting to run around the edge, and Burnsy was just standing there. And I'm like, yeah, come on, Burnsy, you got him, baby. But, Daniels got around the edge, got to the outside, and picked up, I guess about 5 yards or so, whatever it was. I mean, it was – so Burnsy was even there, and he still got around the edge on him. He's just a fantastic, athlete. You got to give the man his props. The one thing is that the only thing I obviously it's fantastic to have like a Lamar Jackson, a Daniels or something like that, because that's so much of their game, right? Obviously passing is too, don't get me wrong, but running is such a big portion of their game. If you run the ball, what did Daniels, what was it? Box score, was it 11 times he ran yesterday? Yeah, 11 times. So, I mean, that's almost 190 times in a year. That's a lot of running for a quarterback. That's running attempts. And that's not times getting sacked or releasing the ball and getting hit and stuff like that. But you run the ball 190 times, that's a lot of hits. 17 games is a lot. I mean, you twisted a knee, whatever, hurt your ankle, hurt your foot, whatever, something like that. If you're kind of pretty much more or less forced to stand in the pocket and complete passes, it's a whole new ball game. So if the next time we got to face him, maybe I don't know, he might be dinged up a little bit. But I said that's a lot of times to get carried, a lot of carries. But I did see this. Some of this is also this is from last year. I know they talk about and how the Giants have to build upon their run defense. How bad is the Giants' run defense, and how can it be fixed? Well, let's see here. Let's see. Oops. The raw numbers of the Giants' run defense were not great. This is from last year, and it hasn't gotten any better this year. Giants gave up 2,316 yards on the ground, 136.2 per game, sixth most in the NFL, while their 4.6 yards per carry allowed was tied for seventh most. That simply isn't good enough for a defense as talented as the Giants appear to be in 2025, and those numbers have to go down without question. See, but also see some of it also, it's got to do with our offense, right? When it's the second half, fourth quarter, and the Giants are losing, the other team, when they're on offense, they can dictate what they want to do. They can run the ball twice and then throw it, they try not to throw it incomplete because that would stop the clock. But, they can run the ball, right? And chew up the clock and all that because they have the lead. When the Giants are down like they were yesterday, right? When they're down 21-6 halfway through the fourth quarter, well, Russell Wilson's not going to turn around and let's establish the run with Tyrone Tracy. Let's establish the run here. It's got 7 minutes to go in the game. We're down by 15 points. Let's establish. You're not doing that. You have to throw the ball. Well, that's what the other teams were able to do last year. They could run the ball, right? Is where the Giants, But I mean, if the Giants ever actually had any type of offense who could stay on the field, control the clock, control the ball, and all of that, you know, if the Giants' defense is on the sideline, where we hope it would be, right? They're not giving up any yards. They're not giving up any points. So a lot of things are pretty misleading. Because you look at it, it's like, like you look at the Giants defense, they give up all these yards. And then you look at the Eagles defense. They only give up, the Eagles defense only gives up this many points and this many yards. It's like, wow, they're so much better than the Giants blow. Well, not necessarily. The Eagles have an offense. They have a very good offensive line. They're able to stay on the field. They can turn around and hand the ball off to Saquon anytime they want. Right? They have two number one wide receivers they can throw the ball to. Right? They have an offense, stays on the field, chews up the clock. Their defense is on the sideline, not giving up any yards, not giving up any points. So therefore, their defense is also rested too. It's not 1, 2, 3 punt like the Giants offense. 1, 2, 3 punt. 1, 2, 3 punt. Our defense keeps running onto the field. After a while, you get tired. Right? But if we actually had an offense that can do anything and stay on the field, our defense is on the sideline. If we actually would have a lead, right? We're not giving up running yards. The Giants are up by 14 points heading into the fourth quarter. The other team, for the most part, is probably going to try to pass the ball, right? They're not going to try to run the ball. So the Giants' offense, the yards per carry goes down. Maybe the amount of running yards per game that goes down. All goes hand in. It's all relative, right? Let's see. So the Giants, let's see. The question it becomes obviously how do they fix it? Well, part of it I said, it's got a lot to do with the offense. Offense helps out the defense. You got offense that's on the field, controlling the clock and the ball and all. The defense is on the sideline, not giving up any points or any yards. So therefore, the defense looks better, right? So let's take things a step further and go a bit beyond the box score. Player tracking data from Next Gen Stats has been a revolution in how we look at and think about the game of football. Being able to see where all players are in relation to each other on any moment-by-moment basis has enabled whole new levels of analysis. One of my favorites is ESPN's win rate family of stats, and in this case, I want to look at the run-stop win rate. They define a run-stop win as any of the following: beating a blocker so he's in better position to stop the runner, disrupting the pocket. Let me share this here. Let's see. All right, so here we go. So there's so many metrics out there. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. See, when I first started, watching football, right, back in 1970, they turn around and they'd hand the ball off. The guy would get the ball and he'd run into the line of scrimmage and he'd get tackled. And it's like, yeah, that run sucked. Now, or he'd pick up 6 or 7 or 8 yards. Yeah, that run was good. Now it's they have there's a win rate family of stats. Now they got. Of course, this one is the run stop win rate. It wasn't like that 55 years ago when I first started watching football. Run stop win rate. They call it disrupting the pocket or running lane by pushing his blocker backwards, containing the runner such that he must adjust his running lane, or recording a tackle within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. Based on those criteria, how would you guess the Giants' defense ranked? 32nd, 30th? Surely they were in the bottom quartile, so 25th, 10th. So the Giants were actually good. Okay? Giants defense as a whole had the 10th best run stop win rate last year. 10th. So what gives? They were right behind the Rams, who were 11th, and the Jets, who were number 9, and were only 1 point behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who were 3rd. That's pretty much in line with the efficiency numbers. Per Pro Football Reference, the Giants defense provided 7.19 expected points added, which ranks 17th in the NFL, also which puts them just behind the Chargers, So why were the results so dramatically different? First part, as I talked about above, and I've written about this before, is that the Giants they didn't finish. Missed too many tackles. Now, one of the things as far as missing tackles, obviously, is missing tackles, but there's also a thing called missing tackles because you're tired. When you've been out there, you're sucking wind. It's tough. I know it's no excuse, but you start getting tired, you start missing tackles. Or if you're getting blown out, some guys start, just packing it up for the day, right? The Giants actually did a good job of winning their run defensive snaps and putting themselves in position to suffocate opposing running games. However, they allowed far too many leaky yards. Poor tackle attempts leading to broken or missed tackles kept the average high and the yards piling up. But as I mentioned, that did improve over the course of the year. And the defenders did a better job of disrupting runs than making tackles when Shane Bowen pivoted to calling a more aggressive, penetrating defense with Elijah Chapman and Elijah Garcia as the starters once Dexter Lawrence went down. For the other part of the equation, I want to look at the Detroit Lions. The Lions had the fifth best run defense in the NFL last year, allowing just 98.4 yards per game. Obviously, you'd expect a team with the Super Bowl aspirations to give up 40 yards fewer per game than the lowly Giants. What you did not expect is that the Giants allowed 4.5 yards per carry. Right? The Giants gave up 4.6. The Lions gave up 4.5. But once again, the Lions, some of it's also, as I said, they can throw all the numbers that they want, is that the Lions a lot of times had the lead. When the Lions, at the end of the game, have a lead, the other team has to pass the ball. When you pass the ball, you pick up passing yardage. You don't pick up running yardage. There's a difference. The Lions scored points. The Giants didn't score any points. So another thing is that, if the Lions get the ball and walk down the field and score a touchdown, right, you got to score a touchdown, right? So, they pass the ball down the field, you're going to pass the ball maybe down the field. Right? You got to keep up with them. Right? The Lions score points, the Giants didn't. Giants didn't score any points, and also the Giants were behind a lot. That's a recipe for giving up a lot of yards. So, of the top 10 run defenses in the NFL in yards per game, 7 of them were in the top 10 of scoring offense. Once again, when you score a lot of points, it forces the other team, right, to score a lot of points. And a lot of times, to score a point, they're going to score a lot of points. You got to pass the ball. It's tough to, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, 20 play drive down the field. It's very difficult. You can't score 6 touchdowns. Very difficult by those long drives of just handing the ball off. That's not happening. So the teams that scored a lot gave up a lot fewer running yards. And then the Chargers gave up 117.5 rushing yards per game, which was just outside of the top 10. They were 11th. So once again, score a lot of points, you give up fewer running yards. And of the top 10 in run defense, 9 were in the top 10 of fewest rushing attempts against, and 7 of them were in the top 10 of most passing. Right? Once again, score points. You're running numbers. Rushing defense numbers look better. Got to score points. Giants don't score any points. So the Giants averaged 1.45 yards per drive last year, less than half the 3.04 average by the Lions, and 0.62 below the NFL average of 2.07. So they were well below average points scored per drive, 1.45. That coincidentally would slot in just behind the Falcons, who saw the NFL's 16th most rushing attempts against and gave up the 15th most rushing yards at 120.6 points per game. And the Falcons gave up 4.5 yards per carry last year. Basically about the same as the Giants did. The Giants, meanwhile, saw 503 rushing attempts against them, which was tied for the 6th most in the NFL. So what does this all mean? The answer is not great, but not as bad as it seems as first. Well, I mean, one of them, obviously, they got to score points. The more points you score, it's going to force the other team to throw the ball. Plain and simple. Got to score points. Yeah. The advanced stats suggest that the Giants defenders were often winning their assignments and in position to make plays. They just didn't finish. That's not good and absolutely needs to improve. Now, one of the things it doesn't talk about is when did the Giants win their assignments and were in position to make plays. This doesn't say this. This is why some of this stuff is a little off. It doesn't make much sense to me because it's like the Giants were in position to make a tackle. They won their assignment. Okay, but when in the game was it? Was it late in the fourth quarter when they were maybe tired? Well, was it early in the game when they were fresh? I mean, when was there a certain percentage of the time when the Giants missed a lot of tackles? I said, was it the end of the game when they've been on the field for 70, 80 snaps or whatever? Yeah. But given the Giants were frequently relying on young players like Newman and Phillips, injured players like Bobby Okereke and Brian Burns, or depth players like Muasau and Elijah Garcia, there was absolute room for a significant improvement. Giants' raw numbers were bad, but they weren't terrible on average. Their average efficiency was above average, while their win rate was so legitimately good. The biggest problem was that there were so many rushing attempts that the yardage just piled up, and over time, all those rushing attempts were opportunities for an opposing professional to make a play. Absolutely. Run defense is a team effort. It takes 11 players on defense working as a unit to function in the moment. But it also demands that the offense do its job and score points to force the other team to pass in order to keep pace. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the biggest thing. Giants have to score points. And, we have 15, 16 points 2 years ago, 15 points, 16 points last year. We're scoring 2 touchdowns a game. I mean, you got to score points. Plain and simple, right? You got to force the other team to pass the ball.